On this episode of Northwest Outdoors, ride with the cowboys on a wagon train in north central Washington State. Then head to Bend, Oregon to learn how to build a snow cave. This is your Northwest Outdoors.
Funding for Northwest Outdoors is made possible in part by Kershaw Knives of Portland, Oregon, makers of precision tools and cutlery. Kershaw Knives strongly supports outdoor programming as well as responsible outdoor activities throughout the Pacific Northwest. And by Subaru, engineered and designed for all types of activities in the great outdoors. The craftsmen and women that repair and supply parts for Subaru West believe that enjoyment of the Pacific Northwest should be available to everyone. And by alltrek.com. Alltrek provides high-performance clothing and gear for every outdoor experience, including paddling, camping, hiking, climbing, and more. Information can be found online at alltrek.com.
In early summer, the wildflowers of the Okanagan Valley in north central Washington State create quite a backdrop in this mountainous region. Northwest Outdoors is here with members of the Washington Outfitters and Guide Association on their annual Ride to Rendezvous. Along with paying guests, this fundraiser is designed to bring club members together and relive the pioneer days of the past. Dozens of horseback riders and wagons started this trip in the small town of Loomis. After winding through the mountains to Concanelli, the trip ends up in the western town of Winthrop for the beginning of the annual 49er Days. This is the beginning of day 2 on the trail. As breakfast is being served, participants are busy readying their horses and wagon teams for the next leg of the trip. Just like the original pioneers, the variety of wagons on this ride vary in shape, size, and necessity.
This is a 1901 delivery wagon. I've just restored it. It was in pretty good shape.
This is a wagonette. It's a 10-person wagonette. It's new, came out of Canada. 5th wheel steering, so it can turn right around on a dime.
This is a racing wagon. It was made in Racine, Wisconsin in 1907. It was probably used as a farm wagon.
1912 Weber wagon. A Weber is the brand of the wagon, and it was a medium-duty farm utility wagon, but it was awful popular with the cattle ranchers for a chuck wagon. This is an Army escort wagon that was used during the Civil War and the Indian Wars. This wagon was actually, it's a late 1800s, early 1900 wagon. It's what they called an Army 4-mule wagon. They hooked 4 mules to this wagon, and this wagon supplied 40 men when they were on their campaigns. So you can imagine 40 men's supplies in this thing, and that's why those sideboards are on there. They would heap the supplies up where that would just be bulging out the sides. And this wagon is an original wagon. It's the original front wheels, the original running gear, the original wheels behind except for some new spokes in the wheels. And those sideboards and those irons are original. They had to rebuild the box because the box was one of the first things that went on these wagons because they were made out of poplar, pine, and softwoods, and they rotted away.
This is an Abbott and Downing mountain stage wagon. It's a little lighter weight than the ones you normally see, which were Abbott and Downing Concords, which weighed about 2,400 pounds empty. And they were pretty much traveling in the flats. Abbott and Downing built these for mountain travel. It weighs in at about 1,800 pounds empty, so we're a little lighter weight that way. We have 6 horses hitched to it. They're a mixture of Morgans and Belgians. The first team would be the wheel team, the center team is a swing, and the front are called leaders.
On these types of rides, everyone has a specific job. Some volunteers from the club are in charge of the mess tent, while others have the responsibility of moving this entire camp to the next location.
Oh, this event is a creation of Claude Miller's. He did this one time about 29 years ago now, and his idea started as a way to follow his father's footsteps and his family's footsteps when they came into the Methow Valley. And so he just kind of wanted to do it again and see if it would work, and decided it would make a great fundraiser for WOGA, and it's been super successful. Everybody is invited to come, anybody and everybody. We have a limit of 100 guests, and we have just about as much staff as we do guests just to put it on. Yeah, anybody and everybody that wants to with their horse, a wagon and a team, or they can rent a rental horse and go on a ride. We have rental stock that will take anybody from the person who's never been on a horse to, we have some riders here that are in their 80s that are renting horses that have been expert riders. But no, you don't have to be an expert rider. We have a very good set of wranglers that'll help you. We have one lady that's come a second time that is legally blind. She rides a horse the whole way. So you don't have to be an expert rider, just have to be able to hold on.
Holding on is only one of the challenges on a horse, as well as being a rider in a wagon. Don and Kristen Super of Tenasket, Washington have additional challenges when it comes to their six-hitch team. Pulling the stagecoach down challenging roads can be dicey. Here, Don had to unhitch 4 of his team in order to navigate this stretch of the trail.
That's it, come easy. Come easy. Come easy. Come easy. That's it, come easy. Come easy. Come easy. That's it, come easy. Easy does it. Easy does it. I have no brake, I don't want any brake. I want them to crawl down here. Easy.
This isn't a road, it's a wash.
A little rocky.
On this leg, the wagon train will travel some 17 to 20 miles. Traveling close to 50 miles during the week can be challenging enough, but on this stretch, the high elevation of Buck Pass is expected to be the real test. On the way, the slow speed of travel allows riders to enjoy the alpine scenery.
I love the outdoors.
Steering these wagons can take a little finesse. Here is how Don steers his stagecoach with a 6-hitch team.
All right, I got 6 horses here. That's 3 lines for each hand. Each one's laced through my hands specifically for the team that I'm driving. The leaders comes back and goes between the finger here and down through the hand. The swing team, the one in the middle, comes in between the middle finger and down out of the hand. And you lock it in with the wheelers coming from below and up through your hand and over the top of your hand. Any line adjustment you have to do from behind and pull it from behind. If you were to open up your hand and reach forward, you'd lose the grip on all your lines and be lost. So all the corrections have to be in from behind.
It didn't take long for the elevation to give way to snowfall. A section of this trail had to be plowed in order to get the wagons through. After a long ride like this, what everyone on the trail looks forward to is the evening's cowboy dinner, complete with entertainment.
Once you get your dinner plate, you go around and we have 7 to 9 cooks, different cook tents. And every one of them fixes a different recipe of basically the same food stuff. One day we might have chicken, another one we might have beef, another one we might have pork, and something like that. So it's kind of a gourmet of one special thing. Then we go on and there's salads and desserts and things to go along with that too. Breakfast the same way. It's biscuits, it's baked in Dutch ovens, rolls and cinnamon rolls baked in Dutch ovens. Once the sun goes down, we get all the dishes washed and put away, and we have a lot of different entertainers in our organization, as well as some outside entertainers that come in. And we have cowboy singing and poetry and guitar playing and sing along songs, and just kind of sit back and enjoy and relax and have a good time.
I'm a lover of the other side of the year. I'm a lover of the other side of the year.
Stay tuned as Northwest Outdoors heads to Bend, Oregon. Wonderless Tours shows how they like to sleep overnight in a snowcave condo. But first, let's head to Elk Camp to get a great outdoor recipe, ultimate Dutch oven chicken.
We're back at the Elk Base Camp, and for this evening's meal, we're going to cook a Dutch oven recipe. Now, you think Dutch oven, there's fire rules out there in the forest right now that says we can't have anything that's like a briquette. We can't use charcoal. We can't have an open flame. But they now have a Dutch oven that we can place right on top of our camp stoves and cook the same recipes that we would cook in a normal Dutch oven. So we're going to do a chicken. We're going to take a chicken in this ultimate Dutch oven. It's got a steam or a heat stem through the center. We're going to place the chicken on the stem of this ultimate Dutch oven. Then we're going to add to it the vegetables that you see in front of us. We have red potatoes, carrots, onions, and some spices. Put a little apple juice in the bottom. So I'm going to finish peeling my carrots and potatoes and onions, and I think I've got enough people waiting for the food that we'll just go ahead and peel one more potato here. We did peel a lot of these earlier, and with red potatoes it's good to use them because they will not turn to mashed potatoes as we use them. So we'll just cut them up in nice chunks and place them in here. We're going to do the same thing. We'll cube these onions up and put them all in the ultimate Dutch oven. First things first, I want to get the chicken with some spices on it here. So we're going to use a little Montreal seasoning, and I know it looks like a lot, but it'll stick to it. Put some on the belly here. I want to rub it around, make sure that we get it well coated. Now we're going to open the body cavity, and we're going to place that over the heat stem in the ultimate Dutch oven. Get it in place there. I'm going to add a little more salt and pepper to that. I want to get those right here. Montreal's got a lot of that in it, but the spices always are nice to have. Going to add a little more salt to it. That should be about right. Now we can add the vegetables that we've already prepped. We're going to put the potatoes on the bottom because it takes longer to cook those than any other item in there. So we'll put those on the bottom, kind of scatter them around. Now for flavor, I think I'm going to take and chop up one of the onions. We'll just quarter it up in cubes and kind of add that around as we go. Save one to put on top. Don't have to be fancy, this is a Dutch oven meal. And to that we'll add the carrots. The reason we're using carrots of this size is they all cook at the same speed, so we'll just scatter those around the edge of the Dutch oven. Enough carrots in there so everybody gets some. They'll add a little sweetness and a nice flavor to it. And to that we're going to add in the bottom of the Dutch oven about a half an inch of apple juice. Gives it a distinct flavor and a little moisture, creates steam for the vegetables to cook, gives it a distinct flavor for the chicken. So really that's all there is to the recipe for Camp Ultimate Chicken. And we're going to put the lid on the Dutch oven, we're going to put the Dutch oven on the stove, and it takes 5 minutes per pound. This chicken was between 5 and 6 pounds, and this whole meal should be done in about a half an hour. Our ultimate Dutch oven chicken for camp should be done. We're going to take it over, get the lid off here. It's got a lifter too, it makes life easy. We can get in there without burning our fingers. Get a look in there and see if our chicken is done. Ooh, it is too. Set this down, we don't want to burn anything. Get some lifters and we'll get that chicken off that stem, probably just falling apart, and it is too. The chicken's done and the vegetables, we'll just ladle those out, put them in the pan with it. We can serve the whole thing at one time. Now all we have to do is wait for those hunters to get back from out in the woods, and we'll have their dinner ready for them when they show up here in just a little bit.
During the winter months, the slopes of Oregon's Mount Bachelor is a hot spot for downhill skiing as well as backcountry activities. This is where adventure guide Dave Nissen heads when he goes for a nice snowshoe walk among the old growth of the Deschutes National Forest.
And of course the temperature is always wonderful. We still got tons of snowpack up here, so it'll be easy.
Mount Bachelor is located a few miles from Bend, Oregon, a little west of the middle of the state. Nissen runs Wanderlust Tours and is here with customer Scott Statz on a different kind of adventure. They are snowshoeing a half a mile from Bachelor's chairlifts into the woods to sleep overnight in the snow. Nissen takes people out that want to learn how to build snow caves.
So along with the slope, you know, it's great to have a cave that's facing east. It's nice to have the sun's light flooding your cave in the morning, and easterly focal point does that. And the other thing is, where we're situated here on the east slope of the Cascades, our storms always come from the west or the southwest here, and it's nice if, today's not going to be a blizzard, but it's nice to have a cave that faces east so that if snow is blowing and whatnot, it's not going to fill in our crawl space type thing. So this will be a perfect slope right here to dig in today.
He recommends a minimum of 8 feet of snow and to use an inclinometer which measures the angle of the slope.
And right now we're at 22 degrees right here. You know, you want between 25 and 35 degrees. So what I might have us do is just go slightly uphill from here where it's a little bit steeper. And today we've got more than 8 feet. My guess is somewhere between 12 and 15 feet is what is underneath us right now. You'll see that just down below us is a nice draw, and so the snow is going to blow into here and fill up a nice drift. So this is a perfect spot to build right here.
All right.
And oh yeah, this is home. Scott, when we begin this cave, what we want to do is just kind of give ourselves an outline into the hill here, and we're going to dig a rectangular box, so to say, straight down into the snow. You can continue this pattern across the slope of the hill right there.
How far across you want to go?
Kind of on this angle right here. We want it so that it's about 7 feet across and about 5 feet down the hill.
So start
make
coming
an
down.
outline. Whoops, I'm sorry, straight down the hill there. There you go.
So Dave, how many of these trips will you take down a year?
Oh gosh, you know, it varies between about
3 and 10 trips a year.
What do people find so exciting about this?
Well, what I've come to discover is that, to me, this is an experience of a lifetime for most folks. Absolute opportunity for them, our guests of Wanderlust, to do something that they would never otherwise perhaps do in their life. And it might be because the folks don't have the equipment to do it. It might be because they don't have the knowledge how to do it. So hopefully, you know, by the end of this trip, you'll have some pretty good winter skills that you'd feel comfortable out here digging in and spending a night in the forest that you might not have been able to do before we got out here. To me, it's truly an experience of a lifetime.
Scott's cave was coming along nicely, so Dave decided to build a separate cave nearby. These caves take on the average 4 hours to build. The idea is to build a porch 6 to 7 feet down, then an access tunnel to a sleeping chamber into the hillside snowdrift.
So at this point, I've got my whole pit dug, and now begins the process, the fun sculpting process of digging and excavating the interior part of my cave. So from this point forward, everything that one begins to dig is going to be done on the basis of an arch. The only square lines that we make are that initial hit here. Everything now is based on an arch, and this is an ancient principle of architecture that takes over. And this is all the way back to the Romanesque period of architecture, that if you've ever been to Europe and seen, you know, the massive old cathedrals in Cologne or that type of thing, you realize when you walk through the door, it's an arched doorway, and the big, massive, thick walls. And what that is the keystone principle, that at the top of your arch up here is the keystone, so that all of the weight that is up above you is displaced over the walls, over these big, fat, thick walls that we're going to end up having. And that's how the roof of your cave, 3 feet above us, is held up, is by that old principle, Romanesque architecture of the keystone.
Construction continues under the setting sun. The deeper the digging goes, the colder and wetter it gets.
So at this point, I've pretty much started to bundle up. I've got my gore coat on. I've got some gore overmitts on. I've got my fleece hat on, and that's because as you start to excavate into the cave here, it gets pretty wet. And so yeah, to have a little bit of overprotection on it's a good thing. By the time I'm done here in a couple hours with Scott building this cave, we'll be pretty much soaked through, and it's a good thing to have a second pair of clothes to dress into after everything is said and done.
These recreational caves do take a lot of work, unlike the quick building of an emergency snow shelter. When the inner chamber is being created, teamwork is essential. One digger inside can carve out snow and kick it out the tunnel for quick excavating.
So what we got here, you guys, is our face wall right here. And I'm going to show you a top view of the way you want to make your cave. Right now we're digging in, and you're going to end up with a horseshoe shape right here. And all of this is going to be excavated right out of here. Then you'll be able to crawl up into here, and you're going to begin, after you get your 18-inch wall right here, you're going to begin to go around in a semicircular shape like this. And out here is where you're going to begin to excavate all of this stuff. So you end up with a semicircular shape in here, and a beautiful round smooth cave on the inside.
The quarters are cramped, but after no time there is enough room to stretch out and get comfortable.
One of the things that I think that Wanderlust Tours is able to offer our guests is, particularly if they're a first-timer or a second-timer out doing this type of snow camping event, is that we can provide valuable skills for people to learn by. And once someone has learned those skills, then I want people to make this a part of their lifestyle. There is just so much beauty to experience out here that if we can put the tools into people's hands, that's what we want to do. Typically, the length that it takes to build a snow cave like the one that we've got right here, for our average guest, it takes about 4 hours for folks to build the cave, somewhere right around there. And you know, that involves the digging of the pit and then digging and excavating out. And a beautiful, absolutely warm, comfortable shelter to be in out here in an otherwise untouchable wilderness. And some of the reasons that what Wanderlust focuses on when we attempt to bring folks out here and enjoy this beautiful wilderness areas is in part teaching folks some wilderness skills, so that if anyone is out snowshoeing or out cross-country skiing or even downhill skiing, people are getting lost every single year up here around Mount Bachelor. It is a means that we hope to give people some tools to feel comfortable out in the wilderness if they get stuck for some reason. And this again is a beautiful cave condo that you wouldn't necessarily build this particular shelter if you're out here lost. But in terms of this type of experience, I think that this is an experience of a lifetime. This is a chance for folks to come out here and experience something that they might not know how to do otherwise. They might not have the equipment that would enable them to do that. They might not have the knowledge of how to build a cave like this and spend some time out in the forest. So we hope to be able to give people the skills to do that. Other than that, I mean, my goodness, you look up at this absolutely stunning blue sky and you say, oh my goodness, this is life at its best. To see the beautiful mountain hemlocks. Right now we're hearing some nuthatches chirping in the background. We've had juncos flying over here. We've watched the ubiquitous raven moving through the skies yesterday up here. Those are some of the reasons I think it's so important to get people out here and just experience the beauty that Mother Nature has to offer. So the last thing that we have to do is break these caves down, just in case anyone is coming through this area, lost skier or that kind of thing. They'll at least see the hole that we've dug and they won't fall in if we break this whole thing down. So it's just the etiquette of snow camping, is to break your cave down when you're all done.
Go online with Northwest Outdoors to learn more about this show, number 1603. On the next Northwest Outdoors, head to the coastal waters of British Columbia, Canada to net some nice-sized Chinook salmon. Fishing host Hobart Mans visits St. John's Fishing Lodge. This is a remodeled ferry turned into a floating lodge. That's on the next Northwest Outdoors.
Funding for Northwest Outdoors is made possible in part by Kershaw Knives of Portland, Oregon, makers of precision tools and cutlery. Kershaw Knives strongly supports outdoor programming as well as responsible outdoor activities throughout the Pacific Northwest. And by Subaru, engineered and designed for all types of activities in the great outdoors. The craftsmen and women that repair and supply parts for Subaru West believe that enjoying